Welcome everybody to a look at the latest 4K limited edition release from Hammer, and it is 1957's The Curse of Frankenstein. So just like with the Quatermass films that came out earlier this year, hefty box set, lots of extras on the discs and physically as well. And yeah, as you can see, quite the sizable. Oh, got that upside down for some reason. Quite the sizable release. So yeah, a lot to get into, but we'll talk about the film as per usual first. So directed by Terence Fisher, who's a long-time director at Hammer. I've seen 19 other films from him. Obviously, most well known for the likes of doing also Dracula the following year after this, as well as The Mummy, The Curse of the Werewolf, The Hound of the Baskervilles, The Devil Rides Out, and 4 of the 6 sequels to this film. So yeah, science fiction horror film clocking in at 83 minutes long. Had a budget of only around $270,000, but made at the box office roughly about 8 million. So it really did launch Hammer into the mainstream. So yeah, stars Peter Cushing, who I've seen in 51 other films. The likes of The Abominable Snowman, Captain Clegg, Island of Terror, The House That Dripped Blood, and Dr. Terror's House of Horrors being some favourites. But obviously, he was also in the first Dracula film and many more besides from Hammer. Also stars Hazel Court, who was in The Mask of the Red Death, the 1963 version of The Raven, and The Premature Burial, which is the only one of the Roger Corman Poe films to not feature Vincent Price, although it is still fairly good. And finally, Christopher Lee, who I've seen in 53 other films. He'd go on to also star in Dracula and the Mummy as both of the titular characters, as well as obviously Frankenstein's monster in this one. I think he's the only actor to portray all three. I know Boris Karloff portrayed the Mummy and Frankenstein's monster, but I don't. He never did Dracula. So yeah, I'm not sure if anyone else has had the reputation of being in all three characters. Now, obviously, he was in far more than just those two films outside of this one, but he is going to be my focus for the Halloween special. So I'm not going to go too in depth into the rest of his films. So as he waits his own execution, Baron Victor Frankenstein tells the story of how he brought a creature to life, only for it to not behave as he intended. So although I, on the whole, prefer this the version of Dracula that Hammer would do the following year to this one, this is nonetheless a really solid start to their horror films in colour career, as this was their first. Peter Cushing is great in the lead role. It is solidly paced. Doesn't unnecessarily retread previous film versions of the Frankenstein story. Obviously, Universal were the first to do the story of Frankenstein. And this doesn't really retread all of that, to be honest. You don't have any villagers storming the castle, for instance. Now, granted, the only reason that wasn't done was because it was a budget restriction, but it still works in its favour in terms of helping it set itself apart from Universal's films. Which also means that it's not as predictable as it could have been, given we aren't retreading old ground. While the plot is overall engrossing, it is well shot. The supporting cast is really good. The violence is well executed. It got an X rating, which is the most rated, highest rating you could get in the UK, and I think it's purely because it was in colour. The violence isn't necessarily overly violent, I don't feel, but the subject matter and the fact it's in colour means that it's more realistic than it would have been if it was in black and white, and I think that's the main reason that it might have got an X rating. Um, and it doesn't outstay its welcome. My only main issues with this are that the narrative structure does deflate some of the tension, as obviously we know Victor Frankenstein is going to survive the story that he is telling, otherwise he wouldn't be able to tell it, and that obviously therefore deflates some of the tension when it comes to him being, under threat from his creature or anyone else. And the aspects of the plot not directly part of the horror aspect are noticeably weaker than the parts that are. So that's some of the more dramatic elements. Just feels a bit more like a costume drama in some areas. So yeah, but on the whole, a really rather good effort, and I certainly enjoyed watching it this time around with this release than I have done in the past. Meaning I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5, which is the same as Dracula would get, but on the whole, I do find that a little bit more of an entertaining effort, while just perhaps filmed that bit better as well. So yeah, just like I said with the Quatermass Experiment films, hefty release, really nice main box artwork, well, box physical aspects. Not obviously there's not much in the way of artwork, but it is a sturdy box, and yeah, really looks the part as well. So yeah, really do like those boxes that they come up with, but it is the box inside of the box that is the main draw for me, because we have two versions of the artwork, one that is new and one that I believe is the original, or close to an original version. So this is the new artwork that we've got going on, which I really rather like. And then this looks like a more original poster. Obviously, many posters or many versions of a film had different posters. So, yeah, there were numerous posters that were always made for a single film for different markets or different release times. So, yeah, but still a nice enough poster as well. And we get a whole bunch of physical extras inside as well, such as a double-sided poster, which neither of which are in English, by the way. Not entirely sure which language is which, but we do have. Now, I was going to say maybe French, but maybe it's also German. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely up on languages. And then we got this one as well. I prefer this one out of the two of them. I prefer the colour on it. Um, that could be Italian or Spanish. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not entirely up on languages. I couldn't find anything out on the actual website that Hammer have, because unfortunately, unlike a lot of boutique labels, they don't have a lot a wraparound with this that features all of the special features on it and such. You have to look on the actual website for such a thing. But we also have the books of Frankenstein Volume 1. This makes me think that they're going to at least bring out maybe another film in the Frankenstein series. Obviously, there were 6 sequels to this film. Personally, considering how much this one costs at £60 and the sheer size of it, you know, we've already got the two Quatermass films as well, which are pretty sizable as well. I do feel like a box set of the sequels, just like with the Dracula series and the Mummy series, would be better. I don't mind releasing the first films of each series in this kind of chunky limited edition box set, as they are the first film in the series, and generally the first film in the series is the best. So no issue at all with them getting their own single release, but I feel like releasing every sequel in these chunky box sets at £60 is really not going to be all that feasible for me personally. It might be for some, but just the sheer size of them, never mind the cost, is not feasible in terms of buying them, quite frankly. So yeah, and you realise how many sequels there were to the Dracula, the Mummy, and this film as well, and yeah, you're talking what, a dozen, 15 or thereabouts. So yeah, but this book pretty thick, as you can see, and yeah, it's 164 pages long. So yeah, quite a lot of write-ups in this. As well as shots from the film and other materials. So, contents wise, we've got For Sadists Only, the making of the film that put Hammer on the map. Could I jump off that thing and swing in? Peter Cushing reflects on his time as the villainous Baron. A jobbing actor, Christopher Lee's film work prior to The Curse of Frankenstein. Christopher comments on The Curse of Frankenstein, so Christopher Lee's memories of the making of his breakout hit. Never let your creature near blind men or children. It never ends well. A whimsical examination of the Baron and his suspect science. The real hero or Hammer. The real hero of Hammer, sorry. Set designer Bernard Robinson, an overlooked figure in Hammer's success. We've created a monster, examining the BBFC's long-standing issue with combining sex and violence. Grateful thanks for splendid direction. An extensive 1973 interview with director Terence Fisher. I am creating a man who cannot be destroyed. Frankenstein's early script development, the Sobotski drafts. Then you got BBFC correspondence documents. This is infinitely more disgusting than the first script, with the Sobotski draft scrapped, a new screenplay is created. I remember Bray Studios. Hugh Harlow writes about his time as third AD on The Curse of Frankenstein. Credits, limited collector's edition content, and thank you. So oh yeah, we do have all of the actual content of the film, well, the extras of the for the film in this booklet, as well as 4K restoration details. So we will go through all of those, but yeah, let's just take a look at the rest of the physical extras first. So we also have a graphic novel, which was released in the mid 70s, I believe. So yeah, pretty interesting little thing this. Although there are obviously going to be spoilers for this if for the film if you've not seen it. Um, but yeah, it's well drawn, and yeah, certainly we'll get across the main bulk of the film itself, such as when the monsters first attacks Frankenstein himself, and yeah, the creature gets clobbered over the head with a chair. And then we also have some art cards as well. So yeah, well, lobby cards should I say. So they have all of that on the back with each number corresponding to each card. So let's take a look at each of them. Not a great deal of spoilers with these cards. Most of them do seem to be in the laboratory that they bring the creature back to life with. Although that skeleton does remind me of is it the Creeping Flesh or something else that Peter Cushing's been in that I've seen. And then Christopher Lee himself in all that makeup. And finally, Christopher Lee again with Hazel Cut. I think that's Hazel Cut. But yeah, we also have all of the discs as well, which are beautifully packaged. So there are 6 of them, 2 Ultra HDs, and 4 Blu-rays with the film and new special features content duplicated on both of the Ultra HD and Blu-rays. So as you can imagine, 6 discs means we've got quite the lengthy release. So yeah, quite the length there. But nicely enough, it's like a kind of a tapestry on the back where it's like replicating a scene also from the film. Yep. So yeah, I really like that. I wish I could put that up somewhere, but unfortunately, I do not have the room. So yeah, as expensive as these releases are, they do put a lot of effort into actually making it as physical as it can be. So yeah, in terms of the 4K restoration details, it says despite being Hammer's first foray into gothic horror and one of the films that defined the company's output for the following decade and a half, The Curse of Frankenstein has suffered many below par releases in the digital age due to the deterioration of its original camera negative. Like many Eastman colour negatives from the mid to late 50s, the stock has faded badly, particularly in the yellow layer. Previous UK releases had been transferred from intermediates struck from the original negative, so results were disappointing. Held by Warner Brothers in Burbank, the 35mm original negative was scanned at 4K resolution, 16-bit, along with the original YCM separation protection masters. These are 3 monochrome reels produced at the time of original production that split the negative colour into individual primary records, yellow, cyan, and magenta. And then the idea being that should the negative become damaged, they could be photochemically printed back together to make a new negative. Modern techniques mean this process can be done digitally. So, yeah, it does go into a lot more detail. There's a whole write up there about it. So, if you really are interested, then yeah, you can read that. Um, but yeah, we also have a huge amount of extras on the actual discs themselves. So, yeah, let's read through them. So this film is now available in 3 aspect ratios. We've got the widescreen 166:1 UK theatrical version, which is full screen, and then we have the full screen 137:1 as filmed version, and the widescreen 185:1 US theatrical version. We've also got brand new 5.1 mix for all 3 iterations alongside the original mono film soundtrack. We also have English, French, Italian, Spanish, and German subtitles on all versions of the film. And then in terms of extras, we've got commentary with author and critic Kim Newman, horror anthologist and writer Stephen Jones, and Barry Forshaw, author of British Gothic Cinema. Commentary with Heidi Honeycutt, writer, filmmaker, and film programmer, and cult movie expert Toby Roan. archive audio commentary with Hammer experts Marcus Hearn and Jonathan Rigby, archive commentary with writer producers Dr. Steve Haberman, and filmmaker and film historian Constantine Nisser. Then recreating the creature, Phil Leakey's creature makeup is the stuff of legend and an inspiration to generations of budding makeup artists. Academy Award winner Dave Elsey from Makeup FX Wizards Igor Studios creates his version of this iconic makeup on actor James Swanton, alongside comments from Phil himself, courtesy of a previously unheard audio interview and newly recorded interview with Phil's son Peter. A fitting vocation, Topped and Tailed, a two-part program that looks at Molly Arbuthnot's contribution to Hammer's Gothics, which is often overlooked but cannot be understated. Professor Melanie Bell and the BFI's Joe Botting discuss Molly and her work alongside contributions from actor Melvin Hayes, who plays a young Victor Frankenstein in this film, who was costumed by Molly at Brave for his role as young Victor. Then we have Good or Tuesday. Jimmy Sangster rose through the production ranks at Hammer to become one of their key creatives and an influence on many who followed. Writer-actor Mark Gatiss, writer-publisher Dick Clemenson, author Stephen Laws, screenwriter-novelist Stephen Gallagher, screenwriter-producer David Peary, and writer-publisher Wayne Kinsey discuss the man and the impact of his work. Then we've got Painting with Fine Brushes. Little Shop of Horrors. Dick Clemenson introduces this previously unheard audio interview with cinematographer Jack Asher, who gives a personal insight into one of his best-known works. Then we've got Beside the Seaside. Actor Madeline Smith even visits Peter Cushing's beloved hometown of Winstable in the company of Hammer expert Wayne Kinsey to learn more about the man behind the actor. Then we've got A Gothic History of Frankenstein. Scriptwriter and novelist Stephen Vogt discusses Shelley's original novel, its adaptation to cinema, and the legacy of Hammer's genre-defining 1957 film. Then we've got Reviving the Curse of Frankenstein, a look behind the scenes at how the new 4K restoration of the film was made. And then we've got Hammer Horror for Hugh Harlow. In this brief archive interview, third assistant director Hugh Harlow reflects on Cushing, Lee, and his time working on the film. Then we've got the Jimmy Sangster 1997 interview, Manchester's Festival of Fantastic Films interview with writer Jimmy Sangster from 1997. Then Frankenstein Reborn, that's an archive featurette that looks at the making of this iconic film with actor Melvin Hayes, Hammer experts Dennis Meikle, and Jonathan Rigby and James Bernard's biographer David Hookvale. Also includes archive footage of Michael Carreras and Jimmy Sangster. Then we've got Life with Sir, an archive featurette that gives a gentle and heartwarming portrait of Peter Cushing by Joyce Broughton, his secretary and friend. And then we've got The Resurrection Men, archive featurette with where Little Shop of Horrors Dick Clemenson explains the revolutionary nature of the Curse of Frankenstein and how it gave birth to a new type of horror. Hideous Progeny, archive featurette where Christopher Frayling discusses the transgressive nature of the English Gothic literary tradition and its monstrous offspring, Gothic cinema. Torrents of Light, archive featurette where cinematographer David J. Miller examines Jack Asher's art history as a lighting cameraman on the Hammer Gothics. Diabolus in Musica, archive featurette where composer Christopher Drake reflects on the skill and talent of James Bernard and his ongoing influence as the sound of Hammer horror. And then we've got an alternative eyeball scene, the alternative censored version of the eyeball scene as featured by Warner Brothers in the US theatrical version. We've also got promotional materials, that's trailers that were compiled and restored where possible as part of the 4K restoration process for the main feature. Also featured is one of the 8mm cut down versions of the film that were commercially available in the 1960s, as well as an image gallery. Now, these next extras are only available on the 6th disc in this release, and only available as part of this limited edition release, so the standard versions will not have this disc. So we've got Flesh and Blood, made in conjunction with Hammer and first transmitted on TV in 1994. Ted Newsom's fascinating feature-length documentary features a wealth of interview material and joint narration by Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. So that's probably one of the last things that Peter Cushing did, because he did die in 1994. Then we've got Mr. Cushing and Mr. Lee, behind-the-scenes recording made during the narration sessions for Flesh and Blood. It was Peter Cushing's last work for Hammer, and his unique recording of a strong friendship between himself and Lee that lasted 4 decades. Then we've got Flesh and Blood narration outtakes. So during the recording of the narration, not everything went to plan. 20 minutes of audio outtakes alongside candid pictures taken on the day. Then we've got Tales of Frankenstein. The success of The Curse of Frankenstein saw Columbia entering into a production deal with Hammer to create a pilot for a new anthology series starring Anton Diffring, who we will be looking at some point later this year because he was in The Man Who Cheated Death, or a title on those lines, which is getting released by Vinegar Syndrome, no less. Who he was going to star as Frankenstein. So the pilot, though, did not go to series and ultimately lapsed into public domain. Then we've got Tales of Frankenstein commentary, 2001 commentary with Ted Newsom, Gary Smith, and Stuart Galbraith. And then the Tale of Tales of Frankenstein, an examination of the circumstances surrounding the production of Tales of Frankenstein by Hammer expert and documentarian Ted Newsom. So, yeah, a whole heap of extras there. Certainly one of the most comprehensive amount of extras for any release that I've bought. And yeah, no doubt that sixth disc will be a big draw for anyone that basically wants to get everything that can possibly ever get from this film. To be honest, because yeah, I doubt we're going to get another release of this film that is going to be any more comprehensive than this, quite frankly. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Hammer have nailed it. I think the film itself looks really rather great. Certainly better than the Quatermass Experiment releases, which look good, but being in black and white, I find noticing, an upgrade in 4K a little bit harder. But with this being in colour, yeah, you could definitely notice that it's much better than the older Blu-ray that I had from uh, more than 10 years ago or so. So, yeah, definitely an upgrade in that regard. But even if it was only a mild upgrade, it would still be worth it because you get all of the physical extras and you get all of those extras I've already mentioned on the discs as well, which if you're a massive Hammer fan, then you will get a lot from. So yeah, highly recommend getting this if you haven't already. I am a bit worried that they are going to be producing a lot of these limited editions for pretty much every film out there. I'm pretty sure Scars of Dracula is getting a limited edition release like this, which not sure why that is the first one to be getting a release when, even though it's a decent film as far as the Dracula series goes, I would have preferred the first one to be brought out first, especially given you brought this one out as well. I would have thought their staple films would get the priority, so Dracula, The Mummy, um, and hell, please bring Devil Rides out because I'd love that to get a release because that's easily one of the best films that Hammer did, even if it wasn't a massive success at the time. So yeah, but regardless, well worth getting. It's also a film that's just well worth seeing, especially during this spooky season. So yeah, get out there and see it if you haven't already. But if you have seen it, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.